Hello and welcome to Sarge's Custom Tutorials. Today we're going to be looking at the Marvel Legends Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse Peter Parker. Really happy to have this figure. I love the animated style from the movie, and this just, if you put the normal head on there, it's just a great looking Spider-Man figure regardless of the source material. And I'm going to be taking a look at maybe adjusting some articulation and adding some black web lines here. So just to give you a closer look at the box. And now let's get them out of the box, take a closer look. And I've mentioned this on previous videos, but a good way to save your carded package is to basically cut a little door in the bottom of the thing, and you can pull the piece directly out of the bottom. So just cutting along the edge of the box, and then starting up here, there, and now I've kind of created a little flap. Pull your direct figure out, and you still have a nice carded packaging there. Now, in the box, he comes with the Spidey head, which is an okay, very stylized to the source material, but it's a pretty good looking Spidey head. Two fist hands come on the body, and then two web thwipping hands. Kind of a bummer you didn't get two wall crawling hands, but seems like Hasbro's always got to skimp on something. They can't just give you everything in one box. So here is the Spider-Man figure. And I think this is just, I like when Spider-Man's a little more slim. He doesn't need to be super jacked. He can be slim and fit and still be Spider-Man. Head pops off pretty easily. Didn't know if I was going to have to hit this with any heat. That one was a little bit tougher to get on. The head sits a little bit high. Probably lower the head just a little bit maybe, but we'll see. Articulation is okay. It's a little bit stiff out of the box, but not bad. Good elbow articulation, and it doesn't look half bad. Wrists are okay. This upper joint here, not bad. The head is just a ball and a hinge. So you get your classic up and down and rotation. A little tiny bit of tilt on the ball, but nothing great. Side to side is pretty good. Front and back is okay, not great. And then you have the lower, which, if you do that looks terrible. Why did they stop the sculpt there? That doesn't make any sense. Same on the back. They stopped the sculpt, so every time you bend them around, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of this setup. It's not terrible. There's been worse, but so this is what I think I'm going to adjust. His hips don't really go up. Are they drop down hips? Oh, they are. Well, drop down hips I don't think are super necessary. He kicks forward plenty fine without even adjusting the hip down. He can kick a little bit higher forward, but who cares if he can only go out that far? Like the drop down doesn't do anything for that. So what I'm going to do is remove the hips and make that channel a little bit further there, so that you might see a little gap right there on the side, but he'll actually be able to do the splits, and that'll help considerably. Yeah, thigh swivel. Pretty good functioning and good looking knee. And the one thing in my opinion that every Spider-Man needs to do, other than be able to do the splits, is he's got to have a swivel at the boot or down here at the ankle, or however they want to do it, but he's got to be able to swivel his foot as well as have a hinge and a rocker. Because like the Pizza Spidey body didn't have a swivel there, and so you couldn't really put him in any good poses because his foot would do that. Every figure should have a boot swivel. So first thing I'm going to do is work on the hips. I'll heat the body up and pull the legs off at the hip joint. Okay. Yeah, just like that. This is a softer plastic here on the hip, and it can just pop on and off once it's warmed up. So what I'm going to do is, this channel is big enough for that pin basically to rotate on. So if you cut the channel further towards the outside of the hip, you should be able to rotate the hip on the ball further. Now I could do it with a Dremel, but not everybody has a Dremel, so I'll just be doing it with a hobby knife. It's already warmed up. I might come back later and kind of smooth that inside edge a little bit, because sometimes the knife doesn't do very well as far as making a smooth cut, but I'll do most of the work with this. And I'm just gonna cut very slowly and try to stay the same size as what's already here. Always be very careful while using a hobby knife. I'm doing my best not to push too hard, and you shouldn't have to push very hard when the plastic is warmed up like this. It cuts through it pretty easily when it's warmed up, but please do be careful. So here we go. Just kind of cut into the leg a little bit there. Try to go equal distance on either side. And then I'm going to take the point of this and kind of stab it into the leg, try to cut through the area where I just cut out. Kind of see what I'm doing there. And then just cut out this excess stuff. There. Okay, so it's still tight on there, and now you can get a little bit further on that split. Still could go more, but you can see as you're going to start to see a little bit of the gap there. I'm okay with that because I know it's going to add articulation, and most of the time you're going to have them in some sort of dynamic pose. So the little gap there, it's not going to matter. If I have him in a pose and he's like this, obviously the gap is back here, you don't see it. No big deal. But you get that extra little bit of split for some better posing. I'm going to do just a little bit more to make sure the pin isn't hitting down here before it's hitting up here. So then that kind of defeats the purpose of cutting this bit out. You can also, it has a little bit of a white tint to it where you've cut it. You can just try to find a paint that matches this as close as you can get, and then put a little bit of paint on the inside of there, and you won't see it as much. Now this figure already is pretty good range for the hips, but there you go. That's definitely better. Here, let's pop the other one on there. Maybe we can get a visual of kind of how much better. Yeah. So that's as far as it'll go originally. And there's with the extra bit cut out. So that's obviously a whole lot better. Almost a full split there. So let's just repeat on the other side. Alright, so now as you can see, get a much better split. So you can get some much more acrobatic poses out of this guy. And it's a pretty simple process. It would probably look a little bit better while he's in a neutral pose if I could use a Dremel. It'd be more rounded and less just a flat line. And I could probably get him to a full split. But as is, it's not bad at all. Now I'm going to be using a marker pen, fine-tipped marker pen, to add some black lines in the webbing. You can do a wash and clean it off and try to leave some of the dark in there. It's a little bit less, it's a little more messy doing it that way. I find it to be a little bit easier using a really fine pen, marker pen. You can get like Gundam pens at most hobby shops. This takes a little bit longer than the paint to dry, but the results are pretty good. Okay, so as I mentioned, you want to get a real fine tipped pen or marker. You'll see the size on the top there. It's something very, very small. And I tested a few different pens off camera, and this one kind of seemed to work well, but the grooves, the sculpt gets thinner at certain parts, so I may kind of bounce between a couple, but basically get a pen, find a line, and then just draw it in. And with most, with the pens that I use, it's just ink. It's like marker ink. So if you mess up, say, and I get a little bit there, while I'm doing it, it kind of just rubs off. It takes a while to dry. So while you're doing it, you can just rub it off. And if you have blotchiness or any weirdness, you can come back and go over it with a magic eraser later and get it off really easily. You might have to redo your line, but again, it's really easy to do, as you can see. It's very tedious. It takes a little while, but it's gonna make a huge difference in the way. You see, I kind of got off the track right there. Wipe it off, good as new. It's gonna make a huge difference in what the figure looks like when it's all done. It's gonna look so much better. The painted web lines always look better than just sculpted. I don't know why they do this. I mean, I guess that's money, but and they know people can just do it themselves like I'm doing now. But man, these would look so much better. Most of their figures would just look so much better with a little bit of paint. Similar, most mass-produced companies, I feel like, are doing the same thing. McFarlane's very guilty of it as well. They want to kick out the product with good sculpts, but then don't put any paint on it to actually bring the sculpt to life. I'm making a bit of a mess here because I'm kind of hurrying for the video, but you get the idea. And then just to show you, so I have a few smudges right there. I have this is just a regular magic eraser. You can just go over it, and if you make a huge mess, start over again. Took away all that stuff, and then you can just come back and do it again. No big deal. Okay, wow, is that ever the definition of tedium? That takes a long time and a lot of patience, but as you can see, as I said, it brings the figure to life. When you can see all those webs, it actually looks like Spider-Man instead of just, red and blue. You get that black accent in there throughout, and it looks really good. Really looks good with all of that work done. I think this would work really well for just a regular Spider-Man. It's a really cool figure. I don't have any of the other figures from this wave. I have the standard release of Gwen and Miles, but I don't have their Spiderverse versions. I might end up picking them up, I'm not sure. Anyway, there you have it. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Let me know how I can make these videos more enjoyable or more informative in the future. And thanks again for watching Sarge's Custom Tutorials.